All right, I want to welcome everybody to another episode of the Shadows Podcast. I'm your host, Trip Bodenheimer, and today I'm joined by Adam Bird. He's the CEO of Heroes Media Group. Sir, welcome to the Shadows Podcast.
How are you, sir? You can just call me Adam, man. It makes me sound old that way, but I get it, man. Hey, listen, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I was telling him before we hit record. For those of you listening while you're running or working out or driving down your car, you can't see. He's got a pretty sweet little setup behind him. Um, Screaming Americana, but I like it. It's looking good.
Got to represent the red, white, and blue, man. Got to love
Well,
it.
before we get going, tell our listeners where you located at.
So I'm kind of all over. So right now, as if you're seeing this or as you're listening to this, I am currently in Pennsylvania at right now, but I commute back and forth between here and Arizona, and
It's right up the
everywhere.
road.
Yeah. I figured I wanted one, I do the summers out here on the East Coast and the winters in Arizona, but you caught me at a time where I just happen to be out east at the moment. So
Nice. That's when you know you made it. When you have a summer residence and you have a winter residence.
so truth be told, the business is registered in Arizona. I lived in Arizona for like 25 years. My wife lives here in Pennsylvania, and that's kind of what brought me out here a little bit more so now.
Yeah.
But I got my parents and stuff, and I still got some things down in Arizona, so I go back there quite a bit still.
I lived in Arizona for 4 years in Tucson. I liked it.
DM.
Yep. I was at DM.
Yep, I lived right outside of Craycroft Gate
I know exactly what you're talking about.
years ago. I lived down there, and I used to go down by the boneyard on the
Yeah.
south side of the runway.
Yep.
They had a dirt area there, and I used to lay on top of my car and watch it. And this was back in the day when they had the F4s and stuff like that, still flying out of DM. So this was late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. I was there 09 to 13. And I could be wrong, but I heard, and I'm gonna lose all my credibility. But I believe there's an article out there about how they got some artists to go out and like start to like paint the all the different planes out at the boneyard.
I
Um,
heard that too. I
yeah,
heard that was one of my favorite places to go when I lived down there was just to go down by the boneyard and just park somewhere and
yeah.
it was almost like if they could talk you'd hear like the missions they were on or where they call me crazy, but I was just into that. I kind of nerded out about that stuff.
It's an awesome site. It was pretty cool because I could look out our window on base housing and see the boneyard. I loved it. But now, well, who's your football team then?
I grew up so I was born in Wisconsin, did most of my raising up there, so I'm
I
a hard Packer fan.
was like, I see where this is going. Okay, yeah. See, I'm loyal to AZ. I'm a Cardinals fan. So
And I tell you what, I've been to plenty of Cardinals game. When they built the new stadium out in Glendale, I
yeah,
lived. My house was 5 miles away. I built a house, and so I watched that stadium from scratch go up. And then, if I wasn't rooting for, if the Packers weren't on, I'd root for the Cardinals. Yeah.
okay. You're up. You're making your way up on my guest list now. Yeah, no, it's the Great Lawn. Like that was an awesome spot to go tailgating. It was so much fun. But before we get into your story, we're gonna go through the 5 rounds presented by our sponsor, Giant Worldwide. Head over to Giant Worldwide or to giant.tv/shadows and check out their leadership seminar they have. And it got some really cool stuff over there. 5 voices, 5 gears. Got a huge repository of videos. First question for you: favorite Disney movie?
Oh man,
You weren't ready for that one.
I wasn't. That totally. Aladdin,
The original or the remake?
the one with Robin Williams as the genie.
Okay. Okay. Not Will Smith eating a toilet tablet.
Ooh, no.
Gotcha. All right. Favorite book that you would recommend for someone?
Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Okay. Why that book?
I think that one there, there's just so many things that you get just out of life, and it really makes you look at your life in general, and it kind of puts things into perspective in so many ways. I got out of it like you have a man that's sitting down talking to who he thinks is the devil, and for those that are Christians, God and good versus evil kind of a thing. Um, and the devil, he got the devil to talk about how and why the world is the way that it is today, and you can incorporate. This book was written in early 1900s, and you can take the words and you can really embed it into what's going on in the world today, and it
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense. So it was very eye-opening, and it was kind of like, what, be grateful for the things that you have, learn to uh get your heart set on something, but more like dream big and follow your dreams, as opposed to, if something goes wrong, like, screw it, I'm done, I'll figure something else out, kind of a thing. It's like it's just a motivation. It's a very inspirational and a very eye-opening book, in my opinion.
Okay. And folks, by the time you listen to this episode, that book will be listed on our website under our book recommendations. Next question for you. What do you wish you had more time to do?
Fish.
Fish. Okay. What kind of fishing?
I'd probably say freshwater fishing. I love I'm an outdoors guy. I love the fish, and that was another question I wasn't expecting, but it kind of popped off the top of my head, was fishing. I'd say that, or more time to. Well, no, I would say I work hard, and I try to. My purpose is to help as many people as I can, and I love doing that. So I'd probably say that that's right up there with fishing. Is more time to help people as
Okay.
well.
Biggest fear?
Man, that's man, you killing me, man. I used to say failure,
Mm,
but I was a single father for 15 years, and I think even today, as my son's 19, he's in college. I would still say the biggest fear of anything is being a parent, and having to let go and let your kids make you know their own mistakes, and not being there to you're there, but you have to step away and let them live their own lives. And I think for me that was hard. It's being a single parent for so many years. You're used to just being there and picking up the pieces and doing this and doing that, and kind of just guiding them. And now you're guiding them from the sideline. You're not in front saying, hey, follow me. Now you're kind of like letting them take the lead, and you're kind of cheering them on from the sideline. If something happens, hey, figure it out, and if it's bad enough, then I'll step in when I need to. But I think being a parent and having something happen to your kid is the biggest fear.
I can relate to that answer. Every single word you just said, except for being a single parent for 15 years. But yeah, it's I can relate. Same thing about being overbearing, or trying to do every single thing for them. But it's like you got to let them fall flat sometimes.
It's He called me the other day, and he was like, I did this and this happened. I was like, what's his number? I'll call the professor myself. I'll handle this right. He's like, he's sitting there. We were FaceTiming, looking at me. He's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like, I got it under control. Like, I was just communicating with you, letting you know, because, and he threw it back at me. He's like, you want me to communicate with you? That's what I'm doing. Oh, all right.
got me.
Yeah, I got it. All right.
Yeah,
Handle your stuff. I got it.
I do the same thing. I'm like, who said that? But then rewind to 20 years ago, and Susan Bodenheimer was doing that, and I'm like, Mom, stop. Now I try to go stone cold Steve Austin up in the administration office. All right. Next question for you. Final question for you. This is an easy one. I've thrown you some softballs so far. Dinner for three historical people no longer with us. Can't be family members.
I would say Jesus Christ.
Okay.
One, and then I would say, I'd say Bruce Lee.
Okay. So we got Jesus, Bruce Lee.
Oh, and okay, and then I would. Who would be the third one? King Arthur.
All right. How come King Arthur?
It's just because growing up, I was kind of fascinated with like the medieval time kind of a thing. And, you remember hearing about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table that kind of started the Crusades at that time. So that at that time I would figure, if I'm sitting down with Jesus, is a very biblical historical figure, and then several 100,000 years later, you got King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table that started kind of the Crusades, of that. It just kind of ties in just in different time frames. And I was always kind of, as a kid, like I said, fascinated with like the medieval era and how things kind of worked, the castles and the knights riding on horseback and stuff like that. So I don't know, it just seemed like an appropriate answer.
Take that group of three to medieval times. And there you go.
Yeah, I think that would be, yeah. And Bruce Lee, I'm a huge martial arts fan. I did martial arts for many years, and I think you can't bring up anything martial arts without thinking of Bruce Lee. So.
Yeah. And a lot of our younger listeners, like, they don't realize how big like martial arts and became like in the 80s, like VHSs and going out and watching those Bruce Lee films.
I mean, Enter the Dragon was one
Yes.
was one of the most epic films of all time, in my opinion. And I think if you look at cinematography and any type of martial arts action sequence in movies today, all of that, the base foundation of what you see today was from Bruce Lee.
100%. Yep. Well, congratulations. You survived our 5 rounds. Whole reason we had you here was for the 5 rounds question.
That's it. My day is complete. I'm good. Thanks, folks. Glad to be here.
So now that brings us to your journey. Okay. Let our listeners know, you mentioned grew up in Wisconsin. So talk to us about upbringings for Adam Bird.
I was born in Wisconsin. I didn't know my biological father. It was raised pretty much by my mom, and her first husband adopted me. They were married several years. Had my sister. I grow up. And then my mom ended up remarrying to my who I consider my dad now, my stepdad, and we moved around a little bit, and then we ended up in Arizona. I was 15, so I was just before high school, 8th grade year.
Did he get a job in Arizona?
Yeah, my pop is probably one of the smartest men you'll ever meet, and he worked for an insurance company, and he opened up the entire Southwest region of this company back in the day. And so we had moved to Tucson, Arizona, and lived there, graduated high school, kind of did my own thing, joined the military, joined the Arizona Guard from there, odds and ends, and stayed in Arizona for about 25 years. Eventually I moved from Tucson to Flagstaff to Phoenix, and
Flagstaff.
Oh, I love Flag, man. I tell you what, I'd be there right now if I could.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Not to cut you off, but you mentioned you joined the Army National Guard. What was it that made you decide to make that jump?
2 things. I was out of money for college because I did a year of college and I ran out of money, and my parents told me to get a job. So I did. That was not what they had in mind.
Yeah.
In fact, my mom was very, she'll deny this. And if she listens to this, I love you, Mom. I gotta throw that out there real quick.
That's the way to do it.
Off in the blow. she was just like, I can't believe you would go off and do something like that. And it turned out to be at that time in my life, it turned out to be the greatest thing I've ever done.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I did that. And then
Why the Army over like Air Force? And not that I'm biased towards the Air Force, but
I
Air
was,
Force, Navy.
so I was a horrible student in high school. In fact, college is when I got my best grades, because I actually kind of started paying attention and learning stuff that I could that I liked.
Was that at
But
Pima?
yeah, I did my first year at Pima,
Okay.
uh, and a downtown campus and West Campus,
Yeah.
and excuse me, East Campus. And I had a learning disability growing up. I had a hard time reading comprehension, so I had a hard time just learning. Period. And I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Wasn't the dullest one, but I was more of a hands-on kind of a learner, if you will.
Mhm.
So I'd quit everything. I played sports growing up, and then I got into high school, and right around my junior year is when life kind of took a turn, and I got cut from the varsity basketball team. I was a backup on the golf team, and then it was just kind of like that. And then I took a wrong direction, started hanging out with the wrong people. I wasn't into drugs, partying, or anything like that. I just wanted to be left alone, and I ended up running away from home for a while. And my last part of my junior year and all my senior year, I didn't live with my parents. I kind of bounced around and went to school, and I ended up dropping out of high school for a while. And
Wow.
there's 3 months left before graduation, and I did not want to be that guy that didn't graduate. So a teacher pulled me aside one morning, and he was telling me about this alternative campus. And he says, listen, you have a lot of potential. I believe in you. And uh, this gentleman really kind of saved my life at that time. He got me into this alternative campus. I did great, got really good grades, ended up getting a scholarship that helped paid for that year at Pima. And I graduated with my class on time. And that was kind of the start of believing in myself, because prior to that, I didn't, it was just kind of like just bouncing around
Yeah.
doing whatever.
Isn't that crazy, the impact that like one person
Yeah.
and their words can have as my dogs start to go, they don't understand that we're recording. I had this conversation with them. But isn't it crazy though that like someone can uh just grab you on the side, see something in you that you have never seen or no one else ever has? And that's like a common thread I'm noticing with a lot of these episodes is one person pulled someone to the side and just said something, and then success just takes off after that. But who have you ever let that individual know what they did for you?
I tried reaching out years ago, and just couldn't find the gentleman. And it was, yeah, it was kind of crazy. And funny thing, this is a true story. I've never shared that with anybody, not even on my own show. So this is the first time I've actually said that publicly.
Exclusive.
Yeah, this is you're getting an exclusive here. I figured with the 5 questions in the hot seat, it'll at
Yeah.
least get what's up. It was but yeah, that was the part that kind of changed my life into like, okay, I must I must have something. And then when I and at that time, like I said, I quit all my sports. I wasn't doing anything, and that's all I knew. Like I grew up wanting to be a baseball player. Baseball was more my sport. Had an accident in the 8th grade, quit that. Didn't think I was big enough to play football, so I didn't do that. I didn't, all through high school, I can't do this, I can't do that, and I didn't have anybody feeding me saying, yeah, you can do that. So when I joined the military, that was kind of the first thing. I didn't quit. It forced me to finish. And I was like, before even basic training started, there was guys wanting to quit. And I was just like, no, we haven't even started yet. Like, what are you talking about? Like, all right, cool. I'm not that guy, at least. Kind of. And that's a horrible thing to say, but like at the same time, I'm like, cool, I'm at least getting through it. And when I got through it, I was like, I have something now that nobody can ever take away from me. And regardless of what branch of service that you serve in, once you're go through the basic training side of it, you're a part of something that what less than 1% of today's population is a part of. So I kind of look at that as like you're part of like the kind of the cool kids club, so to speak. You know what I mean? And that's pretty cool, I think. And that's certainly something I'm proud of. And it's one of those things like you're right. Nobody can, regardless whether you served a year, 2 years, 20 years, 30 years, or anything in between, you have something that nobody can ever take away from you.
What were some of the best experiences you had during your time in the Army?
Those are classified. Let's next question. I was kidding.
Moving on to the next.
No, I would say, the camaraderie was a big thing. With the guard, before I was active guard for a couple of years. I did a drug task force that was a lot of fun. I was very passionate about it. I liked that. And we worked. It was Army and Army Guard and Air Guard working together on stuff. But I would say probably one of the cooler missions I did was I did the Toys for Tots with the Marine Corps Reserve one year, and we had taken. I was a truck driver, so we took some semis out to California. Went to like Port Hueneme and Edwards Air Force Base, and like we got to see all these different bases that are no longer around now. Well, Edwards it is, but like Del Toro and some of these other places, and pick up toys. And then we brought him back to the reservation up in northern Arizona, and seeing the kids' faces, like getting stuff like that was really cool. This is gonna sound crazy. The other thing I would say is not necessarily cool, but one that really had an impact on my life was in 2003 we got deployed to Iraq, kind of for the initial push, and I spent some time over there, and that was very life-changing, eye-opening. I'll just say it was eye-opening, kind of a thing, and it really kind of put kind of life into perspective. We think here, we take things for granted. We all do. And whether you think you do or not, I'm going to tell you right now, you do. Like toilet paper.
Found that out.
That's currency in some countries. You know what I'm saying? It's we take things for granted. Cold water, it's clean water for that matter.
Lights.
Yeah, lights, air conditioning. Air Force guys, man, I tell you, had all kinds of air conditioning tents. I didn't have that. It was like, but we certain when the Air Force came to town, we knew where we were going to make friends real quick. Like those are the guys that have everything. Treat those guys nice and protect them because they'll share their stuff. But it's stuff like that. I think the task force and then that experience getting deployed was something else. Because it kind of made me the person I am today.
During those 9 years, what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself?
That I can do it, not to second guess myself. I think and that's really with anything. I went from the battlefield to the courtroom to being a single parent. And there's no book you can read about when it comes to parenting. And honestly, I'm going to take one of my answers back from previous one. Is I think the greatest thing or the most rewarding thing in my life has been being a parent, hands down. And certainly the most proud thing that I've been, because he's turned into a young man, a good young man. But yeah, what was the question?
No, I was just asking about like what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself during those 9 years?
Confidence, because I grew up with a low self-esteem and not having any confidence, and also learned to be humble. I learned to like, hey, there's too much confidence, which leads into cockiness and arrogance, and when you hit that mark, someone knocks you down, and you learn to be more humble. So I would say probably those things. Having self-confidence was a big one, but to the point where you're not arrogant or cocky about it.
Yeah, it's crazy the parallels between hearing your story and some of the stuff I've been through. I had reading comprehension issues growing up, and I actually had a teacher tell my mom one time that I was dumb, like verbatim. Told my mom I was dumb, and I remember getting in the car. It's like I think third or fourth grade, and I remember my confidence was at an all time, probably the lowest it's ever been in my entire life, and the military really allowed me. It was the first chance I really found some of that confidence. And like you said, they don't allow you to, especially basic training, they don't allow you to give up. You can't. And you got to learn to work with other people and be reliant on other people and deal with different personalities. And you're right. And for, non-military listeners out there, especially, um, he brings up a valid point where he talks about it's not cockiness, it's more you're confident in your capabilities to get things done. And yeah, I can't agree with you enough on that answer. And let's talk about the single parent part of
Yeah.
your story, because that's obviously a huge part of your journey. What were some of the highs and lows that you experienced, and specifically the lows? What were some things you did to like overcome that? Because if we have some single parents out there listening who are going through,
Yeah.
adolescence, teenage years with a child.
It was so, let's see here. Would have been 2005. He was about 2.5 is when I got full custody of him. And his mom wasn't necessarily in the picture. And I won't go into that side of it out of respect, but um I would say the low part of it was, all right, what do I do? Like how do you be a parent? Like he's crying, like he crapped himself.
There's
I'm
no
like,
instructions.
like he's still crying. Like I changed his diaper. Oh, he's hungry. All right, so he can't have steak. Baby food. Got it. All right, like it's kind of like he's trying to figure this out, and it was like, and another low would be my people that were close to me at the time, and a lot of family members were saying you're too hard on him. I was in an instructor's position in the guard at that time, so I was at a recruit training command, and I would help new recruits get ready for basic training and stuff like that. So I was very much in the, for the civilian listeners, you could picture like a drill sergeant type mode. I wasn't a drill sergeant, to be clear, but I was in an instructor's position, and that was the kind of the mindset that I had. So when I got home, I didn't always flip that switch off, and I kind of treated my son like he was one of my troops. And I did that for many years, and everybody started saying, "You're too hard on him. You're this, you're that," and I was dealing with my own personal demons at the time, but I couldn't deal with them because was focusing on my son. So everything that I was going through, I hid it in the back of my as often a lot of vets do. We're not going to talk about it. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to stay busy so I don't have to deal with my issues, right? And I'm sure that some of the listeners probably sounds familiar. So I started easing off on my son a little bit. And in hindsight, was it the right thing to do? Yeah, he's turned out good. And everybody used to say, and it still does, "Hey, your son's a great kid. He's turned out very well, blah, 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 blah." And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, why do you think that is? It was because of the way that I raised him, right? I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. I knew what I didn't want. There were certain things that my parents did that I did not want to incorporate or believe in. And I love my parents, and I'd take a bullet for them. We don't always agree. In fact, I tell you, we don't agree on a lot of things when it comes to like parenting and stuff like that. We didn't. Some stuff, um, but for the most part, it was just a different way of doing it. So that would be my low side of it. And I'll add to that. As my son grew up, um, and we were living in Phoenix, it was time for him to, he was finishing 8th grade. We were trying to find a place for him to go to high school. I did not want to. At that time, I was a substitute teacher in some of the high schools up in the Glendale area, and I did not want him going to school up in Phoenix. So he had found a school down in Tucson where my parents were, and we went down and visited. And my mom said, "Hey, let's go check out this private Christian school." And I'm just like, what's the price tag? Like immediately, it was like it wasn't even about what the school was. Like, what's the price tag on that one? Because like I'm gonna have to get part-time job, go donate a kidney, sell on the black market, whatever. And it was like, so we went and I checked it out and I kept an open mind. And we're not in that tour for more than 5 minutes. I was like, I don't care what I need to do. He's coming to school here. Like this, it was a great school. All right. I don't want to move to Tucson. I haven't even sold my house in Phoenix yet. So we sat down, we had a family meeting, and my son turns to me and says, "Dad, I'll live with grandma and grandpa while you're growing your business." He's like, "Now is your time." But what do you say to that? The kid was 14, 15 years old at the time. And it's like, he's telling me, I'm trying not to get emotional right now, but it was one of those where it's like, I just spent the last, 14, 15 years raising you on my own.
Yeah.
And now I'm supposed to let you go. And I looked at it. I was very bitter for many months about it. I ultimately let him move. I moved him in with my parents so he could go to that school because that's where the school was. And as a parent, our job is to give our kids better opportunities than what we had growing up.
Yeah.
So, and I say all of this because what kind of a parent would I have been if I told him no because of some selfish belief, because I wanted him close to me all the time.
Which is what a lot of parents would do.
I had some of my closest friends, people that I grew up with, chastise me, criticize me for doing it. Now, looking back on it and seeing where he's at right now, greatest move I've ever made as a parent.
Yeah.
Greatest move I've ever made as a parent. And if I had to do it all over again, in a heartbeat, I would. Now, people are thinking, so you weren't with your son. You didn't raise your son. I made when it came to any decisions involving him, regardless where he was at, the buck stopped here with me.
Yeah.
We worked something out with my parents, and I was traveling a lot. So now it gave me more of an opportunity to grow the business, right? So I was traveling, growing the business, and I was traveling all over the country, but that was the hub. The hub was there. So I'd go out for a couple of weeks. I'd be home. I'd be back there for a couple of weeks. I'd go out and do some events and do whatever for a couple of weeks, and then I'd be back here for it. So I wasn't gone that much, right? But here's the biggest thing that it did for me. I talked earlier about fighting kind of my own demons and putting everything in the back of my head. Him starting high school and not being there every single day, but I would talk to him or FaceTime to him every day. I had to grow up now. I was forced to face the things that I had kept in the back of my mind and did not want to face for all those years. It forced me to address those issues. And then one of two things was going to happen. I was either going to face it and I was going to fight through it, or I was going to become a statistic.
And when you say you had to fight through them, what exactly are you referring to?
It's just like bad memories, kind of self-doubt again, kind of old things that would come up, and then being angry all the time, and then feeling lonely. Like if my son wasn't there, I had a realization, and I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but I had a realization that my son, I was just as much as dependent on my son as he was on me taking care of him. Because it was just the two of them. My son's my right-hand man.
Yeah.
He's my son first, but he's also my buddy. You know what I mean? It's like he's he's there with, and I say buddy within reason, people, but like that's he boom, he was always there. So when I felt something or I was feeling something, I could always shift my focus. Hey, I got to take care of him now. So I just focused on him. I didn't have to worry about dealing with my crap and the stuff that I purposely was avoiding.
Yeah.
He started high school and he starts getting older, and that time is going to come where he's going to go off on his own. Guess what? You're not ready for that. Then you're going to get hit in the face with a brick, and you need to address those things.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd say it was probably the first 2 years. It was first 6 months was really hard. And then after his sophomore year, every time I would leave to go back out on the road, I would apologize to him. I said, son, I'm sorry. I gotta go. He finally one day, he got so sick, he got angry at me, and he kind of snapped back at me. And I was like, whoa, what? First off, Tom, like, what are you
Yeah.
talking doing? And he's like, can I speak freely? And I said, yeah, go ahead. He's like, you need to stop. He's like, you apologize all the time. He's like, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, and I wouldn't have the life that I have if it wasn't for you. He's like, don't think I don't appreciate anything that you do, but stop beating yourself up because it's starting to wear me down. And then that was another light bulb went off. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like he's seeing that, and he's feeling that, and from that point forward, and it's been great.
How'd you feel getting that feedback from him?
Um, Shocked at first.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, I would, because you don't ever want to do anything that's kind of like feel like you're spewing on your kid, where you're so emotional that it's pouring onto them, and they start feeling bad or angry or
And it's like you can't turn it off sometimes
right.
either. It's like you make it
Yeah.
worse.
And he was just like, I'm so grateful that I have my son, because I think he's so, parents say this, but he's so wise beyond his years. And I honestly feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like I became a parent when I did. Like God gave me a gift. And I think by me being a single parent and having my son saved my life in so many ways, and allowed me to kind of sculpt the future, and hopefully, you see big things. We always see big things for your kids, but he's got some big goals and stuff that he wants to do, and I think that's pretty cool now. And I'm certainly more at peace with myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I do now, today. Wouldn't
And
be here.
he does sound like he's wise beyond his years, because even when you were talking about some of the things that he's said to you, I imagine like a 20-some-year-old, early 30s, giving you that feedback. And you mentioned he's still in high school.
Yeah, and I was talking to my pop about it, and he, he was surprised. He's like, man, that kid's, and even now he's 19 now, and some of the things that he says, you're kind of like, you don't hear 19-year-olds nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And that's tribute to parenting. That's parenting right there. And I know exactly what you mean. Like my daughter now is at that phase where we were just in Atlanta, and she was looking at Georgia Tech, and she was looking around the campus, and she's been watching videos on it. And I do not realize how much we are like cut from the same cloth, and we are so I feel like I'm dependent on her in a way too, because we act exactly the same. She is me in a 13-year-old girl's body. And I mean, it drives my wife crazy, but no, that I know what you mean with the, you feel like you're dependent on them in a way, just as much as they're dependent upon you.
Yeah.
Um, what what is his goals and like aspirations right now?
So he's going to college. He's in the process of receiving an ROTC scholarship. He's got some hiccups that he's working through, but he's a history major. He'll probably go in for at first, but then he wants to get into his master's program, and he wants to be, ultimately, the overall goal is for him to be a chaplain. He wants to be
Nice.
a military.
Nice. Yeah. No, that'd be a sweet gig right there.
You know,
What branch?
Army.
Oh, you can't do everything right, you know. No, no, that's awesome. No, that is amazing. No, actually, my family, we have Army, Navy, Air Force roots. So my dad was Navy, my grandfather was Army. When I joined, I was like, got to do Air Force. I got to go a different route.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they left me Air Force as the third option. Um, so now let's talk about Heroes Media Group. Talk
Yep.
to us about like the genesis of that, like how that got started, and then let our listeners know what y'all are all about.
Um, well, thanks for that. So in order to get there, I got to take a step back. In 2000 and I'd say 10, 11, I'd worked for a for-profit institution teaching people how to utilize their military benefits to go to school. I won't bring up the name of the school, but it was the big one, a big one. And I got asked to a local radio station to come on board, and that interview led to every other week, led to every week to eventually, doing a show. Buddy of mine at the time, we had served together. He was there, and him and I got reacquainted and whatnot because we hadn't seen each other in years. And we're like, dude, like let's do this. Let's create our own stuff, but let's take it online. You know, there's this thing called internet radio, and nobody's really doing it. So let's do that. And so we started doing that, and we created a company, the two of us, and we started doing a 2-hour show every Saturday morning. And we were just kind of like just goofing around, and it was a lot of barracks talk. And the reason why, truth be told, that we went on the internet was because we could say certain things that you can't say on terrestrial radio. And it was literally like sitting in the barracks, just, using a lot of 4-letter words. I'll just put it that way. Um, we built that up over a 3.5-year period. And near the end of that, we kind of, you have two alpha males, and people have different visions on what they want. So we parted ways. We closed that company down. The next day I filed paperwork for um, Heroes Media Group, and I opened it up for not just military and veterans, because that's what the first company was about. I opened it up for law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, educators, and then there's a clergy piece in there as well. And it started off as kind of a podcast network. I would teach people how to start their own podcasts. I've been doing it now for quite a while. I've got over, I don't know, I lost count, over 2,100 episodes that I've been physically involved with over the years myself, whether it's editing, sitting in, interviewing, or doing the interviews myself. So I basically help people start their podcast.
You'll have an
And,
awesome lineup.
and from there, I just kind of grew it. People that have podcasts, sometimes they're like, hey, can you do the edits? Yeah, we offer that. I got to work on the website. I got somebody now that kind of works on it. I was kind of a one-man team.
I was
Kind
like,
of
your website looks good.
I was trying to do everything for the longest time, but there's some updates where, I get offer, things that we offer and stuff like that. But I I have some people now that believe in the mission, and I've been doing Heroes Media Group's been around for about 6.5 years now, and we got some people, more people involved. The shows that are on the network right now are absolutely incredible. I love working with the people, and then we have a bunch of shows that aren't on the network, or that you can't find on the website, but still part of that HMG family. We have a transcription department where we actually have humans sitting there transcribing podcasts. We do audio books. We started a publishing arm years ago. We've got 5 or 6 audio books already done, and we got several that we're working on currently right now that'll be out later this year. I wanted to change the way media was delivered and consumed. You and I could sit here, and I think most of your listeners would agree that mainstream media and the media nowadays is toxic. it's negative.
Yep.
And we didn't get that overnight. It was all the propaganda stuff, and the you and I would know it as a psyop, right? And I think that's been happening for many, many years, decades. I know that I'm not going to be able to change everything overnight or even in 6 years. But over this 6-year period, I've started to get people on board to start pumping out positive messages. And maybe in another 6 years, we'll have a bigger audience. And then another 6 years after that, it'll be 10 times bigger than what it is now, right? The point that I'm making with that is the Heroes Media Group in 20 years, you're going to be able to look at, wait a minute, everything's more positive now. Why is that? You're going to be able to look back 20 years and you're going to see the core of that was the network of people that were part of Heroes Media Group, the network that you guys are part of, Lima Charlie Network, stuff like that, you guys supporting each other. Those types of groups that are paving the way to the future to create positivity, to kind of, I'm not saying, hey, peace, love, all that other stuff. I know you're going to have some negativity in the world, but if we can cut the negativity in half, can you imagine how much better the world would be right now?
Oh yeah. You're giving people options for positivity too, as opposed to,
and but it's up here. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
We can sit here and sell dumb crap on TV and talk about negative stuff and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Great. And when people ask, well, how come you can't sell this? Well, positivity isn't sexy, they say. Well, that's a mindset. I bet you in 15 years, that's all people are going to buy is positivity.
It's so much easier to be positive. It feels better.
There's more positive things that happen in the world. And this is Adam Bird's belief.
Yeah. I
think there is more positivity in the world than negative stuff that goes on.
Yeah. Well, somebody told me the other day, I said it was about a month ago. They told me I've been working on my mindset for the longest time because I've said it on this podcast a lot. We go out and hire a personal trainer and work on ourselves physically. You're applauded, you get Instagram likes, and everybody loves you. But when you say you're working on your mind, people are like, "What's wrong with you? What in the world is going on?" I have come to terms with I'm working on my mind. I went to mental health for a while. Not that I had anything falling apart around me. It's just I needed to work on my mind. I'd been through some stuff in life. And someone said the other day, I don't let, we don't let other people's negativity project onto us. And once you can cut that, your life gets so much easier. And I was like, okay, whatever, cool. That's a nice little chicken soup for the soul thing. But I started to really just internalize that and really live with that, to where now someone will come up to me, anxiety seeping from their pores, like trying to pass that on to me. And I'm okay, nice. Yeah. And it makes my life so much but your positivity can reflect back on them. And it's crazy how much it can spread. Like negativity spreads really fast, but positivity does too.
There was, it's the law of attraction, and there's a lot of books out there. The Secret. You got there's another Napoleon Hill book, and I've referenced Outwitting the Devil. But your body is we're transmitters, right? So if we're pumping out negative energy, what are we attracting more of? Negative.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you use less muscles in your face to smile than you do to frown.
Yeah.
So put a smile on your face.
Yep.
You don't have to walk around like, hey, look at me, kind of thing. It's like, it's so much easier. Everybody says, well, it's, I got all this stuff going on. Everybody's got stuff going on.
Everybody.
Give me a break. Change your mindset. Okay, I got this stuff going on, but I woke up this morning. But I'm able to cook dinner tonight. But find the small things and build on that. And the problem with that is people are lazy and they give up on it, I think, too easily. It's so much easier to be positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it really is.
Life is so much sweeter.
Let's talk. Speaking of something that puts a smile on my face, let's talk about coffee. You know where this is going. So not only like another exclusive, he's got a sweet desk that he explained to me coming over to be set up at his place. But talk to us about your ventures into the world of your own coffee.
So full disclosure, I met a retired Navy captain that got me into the coffee business. And I was running the coffee. The very first blend that we created is called Heroes United. And it kind of incorporates all the community heroes into one. It's a very bold taste. It's my favorite blend, probably because I picked the beans myself and kind of created the concoction. I didn't, my wife did. Put that in there. Otherwise, I'm going to get yelled at later.
Yeah. You've done a lot of apologizing on this.
I don't know. It's believe me. But it was just something that I could kind of give back from the media side of it. So when a new show would come on, or if I was doing an interview for my podcast, I'd send a guest, a sample pack and a link to, hey, if you like it, go ahead. This is where you can order it, kind of a thing. But honestly, the truth of me doing it was I just didn't want to pay full price for coffee anymore. Like, hey, I slept
overpriced everywhere.
It was like, so, and then about 2 years ago, so that owner sold the company to a group of West Point guys and gal. And a couple of years ago, they approached me and said, hey, do you want to expand your Heroes line? And I said, yeah, I've been waiting on you guys to, do it. Let's do it. So we did. And now we have 7 blends that are out. And we're working on that. I'm actually, ironically, my next call is to our bag company. We're ordering new bags. We're giving it a whole new facelift. Come April 1st, we're gonna have new bags, new imagery on the bags and stuff like that. But then I was like, well, why don't we offer a subscription?
Have people, big thing now,
monthly subscription. And people were like, how come we've never heard of it? Because I'm not out there, beating down the doors or whatnot. It's kind of this is what it is. I got some bigger box stores that are interested in carrying it now, but I'm taking my time with it. And that's kind of how the coffee side of it is how it all transpired. So I ended up moving the coffee and created a whole beverage company, then a company called HMG Beverage. It did that in 2020 it was June. So just after the, apocalypse started, and did that. And then last year you can kind of see right up here.
Yep.
That is our spirit line. We got gin and a couple of bourbons that we're working on. And we got some other things that we're working on, but our gin is our top seller right now. And that's kind of where that's at. So, and I got into that. That was, again, one of those things where it was completely by accident. I've learned a lot from it. I'm grateful for it. But the money that we raise for the coffee and through the spirits, we donate a portion of those back to our community heroes.
That's awesome. And hey, Bryce, The Rock is in the beverage game too. So you're up there competing with DJ right now. No, that's
Dwayne,
awesome.
I'm coming for you, Dwayne.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. And I told you when we first connected, I was like, I'm kind of a coffee snob. I'm actually Nina, if she's listening, she's on the Llama leadership team and part of Lima Charlie also. But her and we always talk about personality assessments, and we stem it from like Jung's typology, but we always compare, like, if Girl Scout cookies, what does that say about your personality? I've got one for coffee that I'm working on. If you're black coffee, it says something about you. If you're a frozen, a pumpkin spice, like there's this whole coffee personality assessment I'm putting together. So we'll probably have that on our Instagram page when
I love it.
Now that this is airing, I have to work on it. But Yeah, if our listeners out there, they want some coffee, they want to find out more about Heroes Media Group, where all can you point them to for everything?
Yeah, you can find us on all platforms. If you want the coffee or check out the Spirit Line, you go to hmgbeverage.com or hmgcoffee.com. And if you have a podcast, interested in starting a podcast, or you're an author and would like your book into the audio format, go to heroesmediagroup.com. And on all the social media platforms, it's Heroes Media GRP.
I need to have I could do a shadows coffee, and it could be like a dark roast, and then rise from the shadows could be kind of like a light.
Hey, I know a guy that can help you.
Yeah. Now my wheels are turning there, because I don't like paying full price for coffee either. So yeah. Well, sir, what final comments do you have for our shadows listeners?
I would think, I would say my final comment is believe in yourself, dream big, and chase your dreams. And just I appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak with you and your listeners today.
Sir, I can't thank you enough for doing this. Folks, go over heroesmediagroup.com. Check out their site. Looks good. Don't listen to them. The site looks very good. It's a good looking site. Got some incredible podcasts available over there. Some faces you'll be familiar with too, especially if you've been listening to the Shadows. So go give them some love. Go check it out. Get you some coffee. And I'm telling you, doing some amazing, amazing things with Heroes Media Group. I can't thank you enough for being on here. Folks, that is going to wrap up this episode of the Shadows Podcast.